So the person is Amal in Torah, and the Torah is Amal for him. The Torah works for him. Rashi says the Torah goes to the Rebbeinu Shalom and begs the Rebbeinu Shalom to give this person siyata the Shmaya, to understand the Torah, to gain from the Torah. As much as the person works for Torah, Torah is working for him. I think we can see, we will see now the melis that was put into this chabura, and the same as the last chabura, but you can see already, we'll see the how much the Torah has been amal for Yeshua and for everyone here, really for everyone who made the chaburas. The Torah mamish makes a person steig. The Orsha was machs and mutav, and it's Hashem by everyone. We zeicha to say another chabura to mamish zeicha to what Torah can do for a person.
Thank you, Rebbe. I'd like to thank Rebbe. I'd like to thank Rebbe Gabriel. I'd like to thank Rebbe Chaim for all the help they gave me this weekend. I really received an abundance of help, and it was I'm very grateful. Thank you for my father and brother for being here. Right? Especially for my father. He's been to more chaburas than most people here. Okay, let's get on. All right. So Taisos Yud Aleph and Aleph, Divrei Ma'aseh Matbilim. Right? It tells us that Schia is Mitam Shlichus. Right? Taisos asks the Kasha, if Schia is Mitam Shlichus, then how could Bezdin be Miskayer a Katan? Right? Because a Katan doesn't have Shlichus. So Taisos, right, brings up the Gemara in Ezeu Neshech that tells us that even though a Katan doesn't have Shlichus, he'll still have a Zechiyah Midrabanan, because this Katan will come into the Klal of Shlichus eventually when he becomes a Gadol. Now, says Taisos, this is still an issue, right? Because besides being a Katan, right, this person is an Adik Kachavim. Adik Kachavim is not going to come to the Klal of Shlichus. So how could you be Miskay? How could you do Zechiyah with this Adik Kachavim? So Taisos answers with two mahalchim. Right? The first mahalch Taisos says is that since this specific way, we look subjectively, as Reb Gavi Neufeld pointed out, right? That unlike by normal Avid Kachavim, right? We look at the general klal, right? The normal group of Avid Kachavim, they're not going to come into the klal of Shlichus, and therefore we'll say that they have no schiyah. However, this specific Avid Kachavim, because he is coming into the klal of Shlichus, because he's being miskayer, therefore we'll have a schiyah midrabanan. That's the first mahalach of Taisos. The second mahalach of Taisos is even starker. Right? The second mahalach of Taisos says that the schiyah of Adik Kachavim is actually a schiyah midaraisa. How? Because since through this schiyah, this Avid Kachavim is becoming a Yisrael, then we look at it as if like the Bezdin is being zeicha for Yisrael himself. Right? You see from this second mahalach in Taisos that we're not telling on what he is now. Right? We don't care that he's an Avid Kachavim. We care that the Chalais Geiris is going to make him into Yisrael, therefore we look at it as if we're being Zeicha for Yisrael. Now Taisos asks the Kasha from the Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Samachas. The Gemara in Sanhedrin, right, brings up the sugya of basically Gezel by a ger. Right? If someone steals from a ger, and a ger is nifter, then who's going to get the money? Right? So the normal din is that it would go to the ger's yarshim, and if the ger has no yarshim, it would go to the kain. So the Gemara over there brings a pasuk, right, that says Ein Lai Ish Gayel, right? And the Gemara in Sanhedrin dashes from this pasuk that when we're looking for a Gayel, when we're looking for the Yarshim of a Ger, we only look for the Yarshim if he is a Gadol, right? What does that mean over there in that context? I don't know. But says that Gemara that we could dash it from this pasuk that it's only a Gadol that we're chayzer after to see if there's any Gayel, if there's any Yarshim, but we aren't chayzer after a Katan. We see from this, right? We see from this Gemara the fact that we're darshaning that you're not chayzer after a ger katan, that there is a mitzias of ger katan and Torah. There's such thing out there. There's the kasha because so far as we understand in Taisos, that ger katan wouldn't be from the Torah, right? Because you can't be zeicha. The zchiyah by ger katan is in midaraisa. It's only midarabanan. So how can you have a ger katan and Torah? So Taisos is mitaritz and says that the case that Gemara and Sanhedrin is dealing with, the case of Ger Katan Ben Atayra, is dealing with the case of Muberish and his Gaira, right? Muberish and his Gaira, and her kid is going to be born, as Rugabi eloquently put it, as an FFB, right? From birth, right? For some reason, this kid will have a shame gerus. Why is that? Perhaps it's because, he's yetzer with his mother's tefillah. Perhaps it's because the mother's not a chatzitza. Refer to your be'in notes from today, and you could look into that piece yourself. But anyway, Tosa says that the case of Ger Katan Ben Atayra is the case of Muberish and his Gaira. Now, Chaim Shmulevitz says another teretz of how you could have a Ger Katan Ben Atayra. Right? So there's a Rambam in Hilchos Melachim Parak Tas Halacha Yud that says that by a Ben Nayach, if he eats Ever Menachai, or he's Gaizel on anything, of any quantity, right? Whether it be less than a Kazayas or less than a Pruta, any of these cases, if he's a Baal Einish, if he's God when it comes, he could get punished. This guy's going to get killed for eating that piece of that crumb of Ever Menachai. Why is that? Says the Rambam, because this Ben Nayach doesn't have the shiurim that are said Halacha Moshe Sinai. The shiurim that were said Halacha Moshe Sinai only apply to Yisrael, but not to a Ben Nayach. And therefore, since that, right, you could have this guy and he'll get killed for any quantity of Gezel or any quantity of Eber Menachai. Now, the Rush says is a tshuva of his that the din of godless, right, the din of becoming a gadol, normally as we know it as a bar mitzvah boy or bas mitzvah girl, right? When you become chayav and mitzvahs and stuff like that, right? He says that a din godless is included in the klal of shiurim. What does that mean? The Minchas Chinuch takes this rush and takes the Rambam as Mechadesh, that we see that you have a chiluk between the godless of a Ben Nayach and the godless of Yisrael. We see from the Rambam that a Ben Nayach doesn't have the shiurim that Yisrael has. We see from the Rush that godless, right, is a din and shir. So it must be that a Ben Nayach doesn't have the godless of Yisrael. So when does a Ben Nayach have godless? Says the Minchas Chinuch, and the Chassam Sofer also, he's masking to this. He says that a Ben Nayach is considered a gadol when he's a bar das, whatever that may be. He's a 6-year-old and he has das. He's a 25-year-old and he has das. Only then is he now chayav in his mitzvahs b'nei Nayach. Only now is he chayav for punishment. Fine. Says Reb Chaim, lefi this das, you can answer Tosis kasha. I can tell you a ger katan ben atayra. What would be a case of ger katan ben atayra? It would be a case of a 8-year-old ben nayach who is a bar das, right? Therefore, as a ben nayach, this kid, because he's a bar das, is considered a gadol, and because of that, he could be miskayer himself. Min atayra, he could be miskayer himself and become a Jew. Now, this is a chiddush, because with this gerus, he's going from being a ben nayach gadol, and he's becoming a katan Yisrael. Because the 8-year-old as a Yisrael, it doesn't matter if he's a bar das or not. He has to be 13 if he wants to be considered a gadol, right? So we see that through this gerus, he's becoming someone who wouldn't be able to be miskar himself. Says Rabbi Chaim, that's it, right? We're not talking on what he becomes. We don't care that he becomes a katan Yisrael, someone who wouldn't be able to be miskar himself. We are talking on his godless now as a ben nayach when he's being miskar. And since right now, as a ben nayach when he's being miskar, he's a gadol, then he has, right, gerus ben atayra, and he's becoming a katan. So you have a ger katan ben atayra. So the kasha is, why doesn't Taisvais say the starets? Right? It's obvious the fact that this doesn't say the starets is Taisvais is not masking to the starets. Why is that? Right? So I want to look into 2 mahalchim that Taisvais said regarding why in Eivid Kachavim, right, why he's in the parsha of Zyskind. Now, just a quick review, right? The first mahalach that we said why Eivid Kachavim is in the parsha of Zyskind is because since the specific Eivid Kachavim is going to come into the klal of Shlichus, therefore, he is Zyskind Medrabanan, just like a katan does. The second mahalach of Taisvais was even starker, like we said. But the second mahalach of Taisvais was that because this Zyskind is making him into Yisrael, we look at him as a Yisrael regarding the Zyskind. Now, according to the second mahalach of Taisvais, it's Pasha why it doesn't say this carrots that Reb Chaim Shmulevitz puts forth Lefi Das Rambam. Because according to this mahalach, Taisvais is not being talay on what he is now, on what he is as a ben nayach. As a ben nayach right now, this kid, he doesn't have schiyah. Right? Tosfos is telling that this schiyah is making him a Yisrael who is in the parsha of shlichus and does have schiyah. So you see, according to the second Mahalach of Tosfos, we're telling on the chalais of gerus. We're not telling on the actual what he is now by the gerus. Fine. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz was not saying that, right? Reb Chaim's teretz was saying that we're telling on the person performing the gerus. Since the person performing the gerus is a ben nayach who's a bar das, he's considered a gadol, and therefore his gerus has been a Torah. Right? Second Mahalach of Tosfos wouldn't work like that because he's not telling on what he is now, he's telling on what he becomes. And according to Tosfos, since you're telling what he becomes, he'd look at this kid as a Yisrael Katan, one who can't be Miskar himself, and it wouldn't be a case of Ger Katan Minatara. Now, what about the first Mahalach of Tosfos? Right? The first Mahalach of Tosfos is chaylik on this, right? It's only in the second Mahalach of Tosfos is saying that you're being taloi on the chalais, right? Right? But however, in the first Mahalach, Tosfos Pashas wouldn't be saying this. Tosfos would be saying, yeah, we are taloi what he is now. And because this Adik Chacham will come into the Klal Shlichus, that's why he has Schiyah. But if this Ben Nayach, this guy is being Miskayr, if he doesn't need Bezdin, meaning let's say he's a Bar Das, he's a Gadol, why wouldn't you have a Geras, why wouldn't you have a Ger Katan Ben Torah from this, according to the first Mahalach of Tosfos, with this Ben Nayach? Why wouldn't he be able to be Mataritz that? So, I want to say that perhaps Tosfos can be machalik in two things, in two different aspects of this answer. Right? I want to say that perhaps maybe Tosfos doesn't agree with Shitas Rambam. Right? The Rambam put forth that the shiurim that apply to a Yisrael don't apply to a Ben Nayach. Right? It's not in the klal of shiurim. However, maybe he says but a Ben Nayach is not in the klal of the shiurim. However, according to Tosfos, maybe a Ben Nayach isn't the klal of shiurim. Maybe he's chaylik on that Rambam. And since a Ben Nayach is included in the shiurim, he won't be a gadol until the same time as Yisrael will be a gadol. Therefore, you wouldn't have a case where a ger, where a Ben Nayach would be able to be miskayr, and then become a Yisrael who's a katan, right? Because he would only be able to be miskayr when he's a gadol, but when he's a gadol, is the same time that a Yisrael is a gadol. Therefore, you wouldn't have a case of ger katan menatayra according to that. So that's one thing. And perhaps you might say that Tosfos agrees with the Rambam, right? Maybe he does say that a Ben Nayach doesn't have the shiur of Yisrael. So if that's so, right? Why is he chaylik? Why can't he say this case of ger katan menatayra according to that first mahalach of why an adik chacham is schiyah? Because maybe he's not chaylik on the Rambam, but maybe he's chaylik on the Rush, right? If we take a step back, it was the Rush who was machadish that godless itself, the din of godless, that is included in the klal shiurim. However, maybe according to Tosfos, that's not so. Maybe according to Tosfos, godless is not included in the klal shiurim. Maybe according to Tosfos, godless is a din of mitzias, right? Maybe it happens to be that b'mitzias, when someone is 13, that's when you're a gadol, right? When you're 12, that's when you're a gedolah, right? Therefore, if he's chaylik on the Rush and says that godless is not a din in shiurim, then according to Tosfos, you'd have godless for a Ben Nayach and Yisrael at the same exact time. And you wouldn't be able to have a Yisrael, you wouldn't be able to have a Ben Nayach who's a gadol, who's being misgayer min ha-Torah, and becoming a katan, be Yisrael. You wouldn't be able to have that ger katan min ha-Torah. So those are two possible timelines. Alright? So it says further on Daf Yud Aleph and Aleph, right? Our Gemara brings the Mishnah in Elin Aris that says that a girl who's misgayer, when she's less than 3 years old, right? And she is, right, if someone's ma'anis that girl later on in life, when she's a naira, she is in the parsha of Kanas, right? This guy who's ma'anis her is chayav in Kanas. Now, our Gemara takes that and it says on that, yeah, you're right, you're chayav in Kanas, but you only pay the Kanas to her, or to her father, l'chi gadla, right? When she grows older. Why? Because when she grows older, she has this option of protesting. She's able to be a machal, right? And she could protest on the gerus that was zeicha for her when she was a ketana, right? And our concern is that you're going to give this kanas money. You're going to give it to a girl who is going to come and she's going to protest her gerus, and it'll come out that you're giving kinas money to a girl who's not a Bas Yisrael, right? She's being mevatel this schia that was done for her with this what do you call it? With this protesting. So Taisus asks, what does this mean, right? Taisus Dever Maskul L'chi Gadla asks, what is L'chi Gadla, right? The Mishnah that we're quoting, the Mishnah that our Gemara is bringing, goes according to the Manda Amar. They can only be in the parsha of Knas if you're a Naira. Now a Naira has to be at least 12 years old and has to have Saras. So this Naira is a full-fledged Gedaila. What do you mean you're waiting for her to see if she will protest? She didn't protest yet. She's a Gedaila already. She didn't protest. Go give her Knas now. Right? If you look at a girl who's 12 years old as being a Gedaila in this case. Right? So Reb Chaim wants to use that the das we said above, right? That the das, that the Minchas Chinuch, the das that he combined with the Rambam and the Rush to say that a Ben Nayach doesn't have the Din Gadlus that a Yisrael has. And rather, Din Gadlus is Taloi on being a Bar Das. We can answer this Taras. We can answer this Kasha of Tosfos. How so? We got to look into the Inyan Macha, right? What is the Macha that this girl is making, right? On this Geras. So what she's doing is she's protesting. She's being mavatel on the schia that was performed for her when she was a Bas Nayach, when she wasn't Jewish. Says Reb Chaim, if that's so, then the godless itself, the godless that enables her to protest, must also be a godless beven Nayach. It must be a godless in regards to the schia that was performed for her. Since schia was performed for her when she was a Bas Nayach, so too, she must have a din godless if she wants to protest that schia, protest her gerus. So what does our Gemara mean when it says l'chi gadla? It's pasha, right? Yeah, this girl might be an Ara. She's in the parshas of Knas, right? This guy who's ma'anes her owes her Knas. However, don't pay her yet because she might become a gedayla bas nayach, right? Because we're talking about a naira here who doesn't have any das, right? She might become a gedayla regarding a bas nayach, and she'll come and protest, and it'll come out that you gave the Knas money to a girl who's not a Bas Yisrael anymore. It's very big. Okay. Just another way that Reb Chaim uses the Shita is to answer another question of our Gemara. Answer another question of Tosfos. So the Minchas Chinuch, right, in Mitzvah Kuf Tzadi, he brings another halacha of the Rambam, right? The Rambam says in Hilchos Malachim, Parak Tas Halacha Vav, he says that when it comes to a Ben Nayach with Mishkav Zachar, he's chayv bein gadol bein katan. That is the lashon of the Rambam. What does that mean? So the Kesef Mishnah, the Beis Yosef, he says that it could be. What does the Rambam mean when he says bein katan? He could be talking about someone who is under the age of 9, right? Someone who's a bechusa ben tes. That if a ben nayach is bayal, a zachar who's not only that one that is ben tes, but even someone who's pachis ben tes, then it'd also be chayv. Right? The Kesef Mishnah says that the Rambam would be like this with the Yisrael. Right? What's it din by Yisrael when it comes to Mishkav Zachar? He's only chayav when it comes to if he's bayal or ben tes. Why is that? There's Gemara in Sanhedrin, right? Where Rava says that we want to make a hekesh regarding the halacha Mishkav Zachar by a Yisrael. Right? Regarding Mishkav Zachar by Yisrael, the pasuk says ve'in tishkav. Right? So Rava wants to make a hekesh and say, right? Tishka comes from the lashon of shachiv, of shchiva. He wants to say that when there's shchiva, there's tishkav, and when there's no shchiva, there's no tishkav. Now, what does that mean? Now, the age for shchiva, right? Where you consider someone who has bia, someone who can't have bia, right? Who's not in the din of bia, is ben tes for a boy, for a zachar, and it's bas gimel for an akeva. Therefore, someone who is not a ben tes is not. You can't read shchiva by her. Shchiva by him. You can't read tishkav. You won't have the chiva. You won't have that chiva of mishkav zachar. However, someone who you could read shchiva by, someone who's a ben tes and above, you do apply tishkav. That's why through this hekish, you could say by Yisrael that mishkav zachar only applies to someone who's a ben tes and above. So the Kesef Mishnah ends off and says that it needs to be understood. Where does the Rambam know this? Where does the Rambam know his din that when it comes to a ben nayach, you're chayav bein gadol bein katan. right? Whether he's a ben shalish, ben tes, and whether he's pachas ben tes. Minchas Chinuch jumps up and he says, I know where he says this. I know why he says this. Because pachas ben tes and pachas b'ba shalish is a din in shiurim. And the Rambam says lishitasai. He says that ben nach doesn't have shiurim like Yisrael has. Therefore, if pechus b'ben tes and pachas b'ba shalish is a din in shiurim, then a ben nach is not bound to that, and therefore we'll have mishkav zachar even for someone who's less than a ben tes. But there's, right, the Minchas Chinuch wonders from this, right? And if that's so, right, if pachas b'ben tes and pechus b'ba shalish is a din in shiurim, then what about all the other cases, the arayas that the Rambam mentions, that halacha, right? It's not only mishkav zachar, the Rambam mentions a bunch of other hilchei arayas in that case. And by none of them does he say, bein gadol, bein katan. Right? Why is it only by mishkav zachar does bein gadol, bein katan? If a ben nach is not bound to the shiurim of being a ben tes or a ba shalish, then who cares if it's an 8-year-old who is with a 2-year-old or vice versa, or any of the cases? In every single case, this ben nach should be chayiv. So what's the din here? So Zator Chaim Shmulevitz, right? That it seems that he's chaylik on the Minchas Chinuch. Zator Chaim Shmulevitz, pachas mi ben tes and b'chus mi ba shalish is not actually a din in shiurim. It's a din of mitzias. Meaning, what would be the nafkamina? Is that if a ben tes has bia with a pachas mi ba shalish, then if you're looking at it midin shiurim, then that bia is a ma'aseh bia. That bia is considered bia. However, it won't have the din of bia. She's not a bas bia that you now get punished for having that bia there. As in other, but by what's it called? If you go with din mitzias, and that bia itself is not a ma'aseh bia, right? So what does that mean? That means that if a ben tes has bia with a pachas b'ba shalish, it's not that he's not chayav because she's not in the, because there's no, we're not going to apply the din of bia here. He's not chayav because this is not considered bia. It's not chashud bia, right? And that's why the Rambam says that by ben nayach, as well by all other cases of rayos, you gotta be above. You gotta be a ben tes. You gotta be a bas gimel. You can't be pachas, right? He says you're only chayav when you're a gadol, not when you're a katan. Fine, but that doesn't answer us for mishkav zachar. If that's the case, right? If pachas b'ben tes and pachas b'ba shalish is a din of mitzias, then why would you be chayav if you have bia? If by mishkav zachar he's bayal a zachar who's pachas b'ben tes, right? Ben nach should have the same mitzias as Yisrael has. They shouldn't be chayav either. So it says Reb Chaim. He says regarding that case mishkav zachar, the etzem bia itself has no different mitzias whether it's a ben tes or less than a ben tes. This whole bia of a mishkav zachar is a whole different kind of bia, and therefore the mitzias is the same regarding what age the nishkav is, right? What age the bayil is being mishkav on, and that's why you're chayav. So why by Yisrael, right? Is he pater pachas ben tes? If there's no mitzias, like if there's no difference in mitzias whether he's a ben tes or pachas ben tes, right? We have that hekesh. Right? We have that hekesh in Sanhedrin, that hekesh that said only when there's shchiva is there tishkav. When there's no shchiva, there's no tishkav. Since anyone who's pachas ben tes, right, has no shchiva, therefore you wouldn't apply the halacha of mishkav zachar by that pachas ben tes by Yisrael, right? And therefore, because of that hekesh, you could say that in regards to mishkav zachar, being a tes or a pachas ben tes for the nishkav is a din in shiurim. This hekesh can make it sort of like a din shiurim, that in regards to mishkav zachar, that's what you have to be in order to be chayiv. And according to the Shitas Rambam, a ben nayach is not bound by the shiurim, and therefore even pachas ben tes he can be chayiv for. So fine. So come up from the Rechaim, from Rechaim Shmulevitz that he says that pachas ben tes b'chus mebas shalish is a din of mitzias. But how can this be? There's a famous kasha from Rabbi Akiva Eger on the Gemara in Tamura. And the Gemara in Tamura, Daf Laman Beis, brings him a very interesting sugya, right? The The Gemara talks about where you have a behema meuberes, right? A behema that's pregnant, and if a man has bia with this behema, then not only is the behema aser for hana, aser for karbanis, but so too the vlad as well. His ma'aseh bia with the behema kind of transfers. I don't know the exact lumdus in that, but it kind of transfers to the vlad itself, and the vlad will also be aser. Fine. As from Kiva Eger Abamba. As from Kiva Eger Abamba. If that's so, then how could you permit a man to be with his Eishes Meuberes? Right? Using the same logic as you do by the behema, you'd say that if a man has bia with his Eishes Meuberes, in extension, it should be in a way that bia should transfer over to the bas, to the vlad itself. So how could a man ever have bia with his Eishes Meuberes? So Rabbi Kiva Eger says a little further, and points out that this vlad is not 3 years old, right? She's pachas mibas shalish. And since she's pachas mibas shalish, maybe you can't say an Isser D'Oraisa, but you got to say there's at least some Isser D'Rabbanan. You got to say there's some stiff arm here, something that doesn't make any sense regarding this lumdus that you get from a behema, right? You shouldn't be able to be bail your Eishes Meuberes. So there should be some Isser D'Rabbanan. So let's analyze this kasha of Rabbi Kiva Eger, right? We were saying before that pachas b'ben tas and pachus mibas shalish is a din mitzias. And what does din mitzias means? That if a guy who's 9 and above has bia with a girl who's below the age of 3, who's pachus mibas shalish, then that bia is not a ma'isa bia. It's not chashiv bia. However, if you look in this case of Eishes Meuberes, right, that you wouldn't be able to be stopped by that being a pachus mibas shalish. Why? Because who's he having bia with? He's having bia with the bas. He's having bia with the aim. He's having bia with someone who the bia is a ma'isa bia. If that's so, then the ma'isa bia has been created. And that ma'isa bia is now transferred onto the bas. And if you're going to say that pachus mibas shalish is a din mitzias, then what's Rabbi Kiva Eger saying? It should only be an Isser D'Rabbanan because it's pachus mibas shalish. It should be an Isser D'Oraisa. Right? So it must be shush.
Good job.
It should be Isser on the Rabbanan because there's Isser on the dish. That's the Zivna he also is the Rabbanan. Which is
Right. So where were we? So rather, it must be that the Havana of Rabbi Akiva Eger is that pachus mibas shalish, and an extension also pachas miben tas. It must be din in shiurim, right? Since it's a din in shiurim, yes, you had ma'aseh bia with the aim, and that bia is being transferred over to the bas. But since the bas is pachas mibas shalish, there's no din bia here, right? There's no chiyuv. So the most we're going to say is there should be an Isser D'Rabbanan. There's no Isser D'Oraisa. Must Rabbi Akiva Eger holds that pachus mibas shalish is a din in shiurim and not a din in mitzias. Now, Be'emes, we mentioned the tshuva of the Rush earlier on that said that godless is in the klal shiurim, right? It also said halacha Moshe Sinai, and it is something if you go to Das Rambam, it wouldn't apply to a Ben Naich. So it's not the only thing that the Rush mentioned over there, right? I kept a little cookie from you guys, right? The Rush mentioned even further, that's not the only case where it's in the klal shiurim. What else is in the klal shiurim? Pachus mibas shalish, pachas miben tas, just like the Rabbi Kiva Eger said, right? Those cases are din shiurim, right? Also, right? This is a question of Chaim Shmulevitz. Chaim Shmulevitz say that it's a din of mitzias, right? We see from the Rush, we see from Rabbi Kiva Eger, it's a din in shiurim. So what does this bring us, right? This brings us back to the kasha of the Minchas Chinuch, right? That if Pechusa mibas tes and if Pechusa mibas shalish and Pachas miben tes is a din in shiurim, then according to the Rambam, why are you not chayav bein gadol, bein katan by all the other arayos he said? Why is it only gadol? Right? Exactly, because it's a din shiurim. Shiurim don't apply by a ben nayach, and a ben nayach should be chayav whether he is 9 years old, whether he's 8 years old, whether she is 3, whether she is 2. He should have a chiyuv in every single case. So, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz takes us home by saying another bumba. What do you say for an answer? A bomb answer. A banter. Right? So he says that you're right. Right? Pechusa me bas gimel and pachas me bentes is a din shira. But it's also a din in mitzias. You need both. It's part of both. The din in mitzias and there's a din in shira. How do we see this? Let's bring out 2 cases that we already mentioned. The Mishkav Zachar, for example. Right? The case of Mishkav Zachar. This Ben Nayach is not bogged down by shiurim. And therefore, regarding the sheer aspect of this of the Nishkav having to be a bentes, you don't need that, right? It could be pachas bentes when you're looking in the din shiurim. The din of mitzias as well. Because we explained that when it comes to Mishkav Zachar, right? That the etzem bia over there in that case has no difference in mitzias whether it's a bentes, whether it's pachas bentes. And that's why, in case of Mishkav ben Zachar, according to the Rambam, you're chayav whether you're gadol, whether you're katan. Right? Other cases of bia, you wouldn't be able to say that. Other cases of arayas. Imagine any other case of arayas. If she's pachas b'bas shalish, then the bia is not chashuv bia. Right? It's only by Mishkav Zachar where this bia has a different type of mitzias, where if you're under the age necessary, then you could still be chayav. So that's why the Rambam holds by all other cases of arayas you wouldn't be chayav by. Only it's bein gadol bein katan by Mishkav Zachar. Another nafkamina, you'd be able to see in the case of that we mentioned that Rabbi Akiva Eiger brought up, right? A case of where you are bayal your ages and meubaris. In that case, right, the bia would be a ma'aseh bia because who you're having bia with? You're having bia with the mother who's in the Torah of bia. However, that bia wouldn't transfer. Therefore, you don't have the problem with mitzias, right? So far, so good. You should still be chayav. We're slowly getting to the point where you should be chayav. However, no, because of the din shiurim, right? Because any bia with a bechusa bebas tes, it doesn't have a din bia. Therefore, when it comes to that case, you wouldn't have an isra d'oraisa. Only, as Rabbi Akiva Eiger says, it should be an isra d'rabbanan. The question is, where does Reb Chaim know this? Right? So the posh this is that Reb Chaim gets this teretz of his by just looking around, right? Surveying the room, surveying all the shitas, right? It comes out that it seems like no shita has a problem here. There's not a question in any shita. We go like Rabbi Akiva Eiger, we go like the Rush, right? All who say it's a din in shiurim. We're going like all the Rambam's cases work out now. Minchas Chinuch works out, and and even Reb Chaim, it's also din of mitzias. And everything adds up. All the cases work out perfectly. And I think that's why Reb Chaim says this teretz. Thank you.
Amen.